In December 2001, Enron Corporation filed for bankruptcy. At the time, it was the largest corporate bankruptcy in American history. Enron had been named Fortune magazine's most innovative company for 6 consecutive years. Its stock had peaked at $90 a share. Its executives were celebrated in the press, welcomed at the White House, and described by analysts as visionaries who had invented a new model of American business. The new model was fraud. But here is what makes Enron different from a simple story of executives lying. The fraud was not well hidden. The financial statements were strange. The business model was confusing by design. Analysts who asked too many questions were publicly humiliated by Enron's CEO. The company's auditor signed off on accounts that shouldn't have passed basic scrutiny. For a decade, the entire apparatus of financial oversight, the auditors, the analysts, the banks, the journalists, looked at Enron and chose not to see what was there. This is not a story about a fraud that fooled everyone. It is a story about everyone who had reasons to look the other way, and did. Enron started as a natural gas pipeline company in Houston, Texas, in 1985. In 1989, a trader named Jeffrey Skilling joined the company and proposed an idea that would transform it. Instead of just owning pipelines, Enron could trade energy contracts, buying and selling gas and electricity as a financial commodity, the same way Wall Street traded stocks and bonds. Enron would become a market maker for energy, connecting buyers and sellers and taking a cut of every transaction. The idea was genuinely brilliant. Energy markets in the 1990s were being deregulated, and there was real money to be made connecting producers and consumers in new ways. By the late 1990s, Enron had expanded beyond gas into electricity, broadband, weather derivatives, and almost any commodity it could create a trading market for. Its Houston headquarters was a temple of corporate ambition, a trading floor full of young, aggressive, highly paid employees who believed they were smarter than everyone else. The culture rewarded that belief. Skilling, who became CEO in 2001, ran a performance review system called Rank and Yank. Every year, the bottom 15% of employees were fired. Winning was everything. Losing was not tolerated. That culture produced great profits. It also produced an organization where no one was willing to admit when something wasn't working. Enron's core financial problem was simple. Many of its businesses were not profitable, but its stock price was built on the assumption that they were, and that assumption had to be maintained at all costs. The mechanism Enron used was called mark-to-market accounting. Under normal accounting rules, a company records revenue when it actually receives money. Under mark-to-market, Enron could sign a long-term energy contract and immediately book the estimated future profits of that contract as current revenue, even if the cash wouldn't arrive for years or ever. This created a machine for manufacturing earnings on paper. Sign a contract, book projected profits, report revenue. Stock goes up, repeat. But mark-to-market only worked if the projected profits were real. Increasingly, they weren't. Enron's broadband business was losing money. Its water business in the United Kingdom was a disaster. Its international power projects were underperforming. So Enron created a parallel structure of off-balance sheet entities, companies that existed mainly to absorb Enron's losses and hide them from investors. These entities were called special purpose vehicles. Enron's CFO, Andrew Fastow, ran several of them personally, collecting fees from Enron for managing companies that existed to protect Enron's reported earnings. It was a conflict of interest so obvious it should have been caught immediately. It wasn't caught for 7 years. The warnings were there. In 2001, a financial journalist named Bethany McLean wrote an article for Fortune magazine with a simple question in the headline: "Is Enron overpriced?" The article noted that Enron's business model was nearly impossible to understand, that its financial statements were opaque, and that analysts were recommending the stock without being able to explain how the company actually made money. Enron's response was to fly McLean to Houston, seat her in a room with Jeffrey Skilling and other executives, and spend several hours attacking the premise of her questions. It mostly worked. The article raised questions but didn't expose the fraud. Skilling, for his part, had developed a standard response to analysts who asked uncomfortable questions. He called them names on earnings calls and hung up the phone. In an August 2001 earnings call, an analyst named Richard Grubman pushed back on the fact that Enron had not released its balance sheet. Skilling called him an asshole on a live call with hundreds of investors listening. The response was not an executive losing his temper. It was a warning sign so obvious it should have been impossible to miss. The stock kept climbing. In August 2001, Jeffrey Skilling resigned as CEO, citing personal reasons. 6 months into the job, after a decade of building the company, Ken Lay, the founder, returned as CEO. Within weeks, Enron's vice president of corporate development, Sharon Watkins, sent Lay an anonymous memo warning him that Enron would implode in a wave of accounting scandals. Lay showed the memo to Enron's outside lawyers. They investigated and concluded there was no problem. In October 2001, Enron reported a $1 billion write-down, eliminating $1 billion of paper value in 1 quarter. The SEC opened an inquiry. The stock began to fall. In November, Enron was forced to restate 5 years of financial statements. The revision eliminated $600 million of previously reported profits. Banks began withdrawing credit lines. Counterparties stopped trading with Enron. The company tried to arrange an emergency merger with Dynegy, a rival energy company. But Dynegy pulled out after getting a closer look at the books. On December 2, 2001, Enron filed for bankruptcy. 20,000 employees lost their jobs. Many had their retirement savings, held in Enron stock, wiped out entirely. They had been encouraged to invest in company stock. They had not been told the company's finances were fictitious. Ken Lay was convicted of securities fraud and conspiracy in 2006. He died before sentencing. Jeffrey Skilling was sentenced to 24 years in prison. He served 12. Arthur Andersen, Enron's auditor, one of the 5 largest accounting firms in the world, was convicted of obstruction of justice for shredding documents during the investigation. The conviction destroyed the firm. 85,000 people lost their jobs. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act was passed in 2002, requiring CEOs and CFOs to personally certify the accuracy of financial statements and creating new criminal penalties for fraud. But the most important lesson of Enron is not about the executives who committed fraud. It is about the system that let them, the auditors who signed off, the analysts who recommended the stock without understanding the business, the banks who structured the off-balance sheet entities, the journalists who accepted Skilling's explanations without pushing back. Enron's fraud survived for a decade, not because it was clever. It survived because looking too closely at Enron was bad for business, and almost everyone had a business reason to look away.